Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time when we must open our eyes to the truth. The world is filled with good people, people who love, who give, who build up others. But there are also those who walk a darker path. They don't announce themselves. They don't come wearing a warning label. Instead, they smile, they flatter, they blend in. But their hearts are full of deceit. And if we're not watchful, we may find ourselves entangled in their web. Today I want to talk about 9 signs, clear warnings that reveal the character of a bad person. We don't do this to condemn, but to protect, to shield our hearts, our families, and our future. 1, they are deceptive. Bad people are masters of deception. They twist the truth. They tell half-truths that sound like wisdom but lead you astray. They lie with ease and often. Their goal is not to be honest, but to gain an advantage, to control, to confuse. A lying tongue hates those it crushes. 2, they manipulate others. They are skilled manipulators. They play with emotions. They guilt you into submission, flatter you into silence, and twist your loyalty into chains. They make you question yourself so they can take control. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the hearts of the naive. 3, they are proud and arrogant. A bad person is puffed up with pride. They refuse correction. They won't admit fault. They think they're better than others. Their pride blinds them to truth and shuts their ears to wisdom. Pride goes before destruction. 4, they lack empathy. They can watch someone suffer and feel nothing. They speak of compassion, but their hearts are cold. They can wound someone deeply and never lose a night's sleep. Mercy is a stranger to them. They have no compassion. Their hearts are calloused. 5, they are quick to anger. They are easily offended. They lash out without thinking. Their anger is like a fire that burns anyone nearby. Their temper controls them, and those who walk with them are always walking on eggshells. A fool gives full vent to his anger. 6, they stir division wherever they go. They sow division. They turn friends against each other. They whisper lies in secret. They feed on gossip. They are happiest when others are fighting and they sit back watching the chaos. A perverse person stirs up conflict. 7, they are untrustworthy. Their word means nothing. They make promises they never intend to keep. They use others like stepping stones. When things get hard, they disappear. They will betray you when it serves them. The faithful are few, but a liar multiplies wounds. 8, they have secret lives. They live double lives. What they show in public is not who they are in private. They have secrets, hidden sins, concealed actions, lives they hope no one ever discovers. What is done in darkness will be brought to light. 9, they refuse to change. Even when confronted with the truth, they refuse to change. They justify their wrongs. They blame others. They will not repent, and they harden their hearts over and over again. Evil thrives in deception, often hiding behind charm and false righteousness. It rarely shows its true face at first glance. Instead, it cloaks itself in what looks good, what sounds appealing, and what feels trustworthy. This is how it gains ground in the hearts and minds of people who would otherwise never open the door to darkness. Deception is not always a lie that's easy to spot. Often it is mixed with just enough truth to make it believable. Evil understands this better than most. It doesn't need to force itself into our lives if it can convince us to welcome it inside willingly. That is how deception works. It presents itself as something it's not. It takes on the appearance of something righteous, something noble, even something holy. The person who deceives often comes across as sincere. They may speak with conviction, with passion, and even with kindness. Their words may sound like wisdom. They may appeal to our sense of compassion or justice. They can weave stories that stir our emotions, drawing sympathy and trust. But underneath that polished exterior lies something rotten. They are not what they appear to be. Their motives are not pure. Their kindness is often a tool, their charm a mask. They do not seek your good, but their own gain. False righteousness is a powerful disguise. Evil knows that people are drawn to what seems morally upright, so it imitates goodness. It wears the clothes of virtue. It speaks the language of integrity. It mimics the behaviors we have come to associate with good character. But if you listen closely, you will hear the difference. A person who is truly righteous does not need to announce it. Their actions speak for them. Their lives are consistent, whether in public or private. Those who are false in their righteousness are more concerned with appearances. They perform goodness when others are watching, but behind closed doors they live differently. Their version of righteousness is self-serving. They do good only when it benefits them, when it improves their reputation, when it gives them leverage over others. Deception is not just about hiding the truth. It's about creating an illusion so convincing that you question your instinct. Evil thrives when people are confused, when they are unsure who to trust. It casts doubt on what is right and wrong. It blurs the lines. Suddenly, what once seemed clear becomes complicated. That's where charm comes in. People who operate through deception often have a way of making you feel special, understood, even important. They can make you feel like you are the only one who truly gets it. They appeal to your ego, your fears, or your hope. And when they have you emotionally hooked, they can lead you almost anywhere. Charm is a dangerous tool in the hands of someone with bad intentions. It makes you lower your guard. It makes you second-guess the warning signs you feel deep inside. You might sense that something isn't quite right, but you ignore it because the person seems so genuine. They know the right words to say. They know how to make you feel safe, valued, and included, but their charm is not a reflection of their true character. It's bait on the hook. And once you're caught, it's hard to break free. False righteousness often comes with a sense of superiority. People who use this tactic act as though they have the moral high ground. They are quick to point out the faults of others, but slow to admit their own. They use religion, ethics, or noble causes as weapons. They wrap themselves in these things so tightly that anyone who questions them seems to be questioning what is good and true. But their version of righteousness is hollow. It lacks the humility that always accompanies true goodness. They are more concerned with appearing right than being right, and they will do whatever it takes to protect their image. Evil feeds on deception, because deception confuses, entraps, and isolates. When you are deceived, you often feel alone in your doubts. You may be surrounded by others who have also fallen for the same illusion, and together you reinforce the deception without realizing it. Evil works quietly in these spaces. It spreads lies slowly, often blending them with partial truths. It makes you dependent on the deceiver for direction, for approval, and for a sense of belonging. The danger is that, on the surface, everything looks good. The person looks respectable. Their actions, at least some of them, seem generous. Their words might be inspiring, but underneath their heart is far from pure. They are driven by selfishness, by greed, by control, or by a hunger for power. And because they have hidden their true nature so well, many never see it until it's too late. True discernment is needed to recognize this kind of evil. You can't always rely on what your eyes see or your ears hear. You must look deeper. Watch how a person treats those who cannot give them anything in return. Pay attention to what they do when no one is watching. Listen for consistency between their words and their actions. Evil in disguise can only fool you for so long. Eventually the truth comes out. But until it does, deception is its greatest weapon. Evil thrives in deception because deception allows it to operate without opposition. As long as it can hide behind charm and false righteousness, it can spread its influence unchecked. It can build trust only to break it. It can gain power only to abuse it. And it can lead people astray, not by force, but by subtle persuasion. That is why deception is not just a tool of evil, it is its home. It is where it feels most comfortable and where it does the most damage. Bad people often manipulate and control others for personal gain. This is not always obvious at first. Manipulation can be subtle, and control can come in ways that are hard to detect. These people rarely show their true intentions openly. Instead, they work behind the scenes, pulling strings, saying the right things, and slowly gaining influence over the people around them. Their goal is not to help, uplift, or support others, but to use them as tools for their own benefit. Their relationships are not built on love, respect, or mutual care. They are built on power and self-interest. At the core of manipulation is selfishness. A bad person looks at others and does not see people with feelings, dreams, or worth. Instead, they see opportunities. They see someone they can use to get ahead, to feel more important, to gain more control, or to satisfy their desires. They are not interested in building genuine connection. Their concern is how much they can take, how much they can control, and how much they can gain before the other person realizes what is happening. Manipulation often starts with charm. Bad people know how to be persuasive. They can be kind and attentive when it serves them. They can act like they care deeply about you. They may flatter you, make you feel special, and convince you that they are trustworthy. This is all part of the plan. They create an emotional connection so you will let your guard down. They want you to feel safe with them because it makes you easier to influence. They study your weaknesses. They notice your insecurities. They watch for the things you long for most, whether it's approval, love, recognition, or acceptance, and they offer you exactly what you want. But it comes with a price, one they often do not mention until you are already under their control. Once they have gained your trust, they begin to twist things. They use guilt, fear, and obligation to keep you where they want you. They may remind you of the times they helped you, subtly suggesting that you owe them something in return. They may make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or saying no. They play the victim, acting as if your independence is hurting them or betraying them in some way. They can twist your words, making you doubt yourself and question your own judgment. Over time, you may find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, giving in to demands you never agreed to, and feeling responsible for their happiness or success. Control does not always look like force. Often, it is quiet and gradual. A bad person may isolate you from others, convincing you that no one else understands you or cares about you the way they do. They may plant seeds of doubt about your family, your friends, or anyone who might see through their manipulation. They want to be the central figure in your life, the one you turn to for approval, guidance, and validation. When you are cut off from other voices, it is easier for them to control your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. Some bad people use anger and intimidation as tools of control. They may lash out when things don't go their way, using fear to keep you compliant. You may find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict or upset. Their outbursts are designed to remind you who holds the power in the relationship. At other times, they use silence as a weapon, withdrawing affection or communication until you give in to their demands. Whether through aggression or emotional withdrawal, they create an environment where you feel powerless and dependent. One of the most dangerous things about manipulation is that it can make you question your reality. Bad people are skilled at rewriting history, denying things they said or did, and making you doubt your own memory. This is often called gaslighting. They may tell you that you are too sensitive, that you are imagining things, or that you are the problem. Over time, you may begin to believe them. You may lose confidence in your ability to make decisions or trust your instincts. This makes you even easier to control because you stop relying on yourself and start relying completely on them. These manipulative people are always thinking about their advantage. Whether it is money, status, influence, or emotional power, they are focused on what they can gain from the relationship. They do not hesitate to take credit for your successes or blame you for their failures. They will use your resources, your time, and your energy without regard for how it affects you. And when you are no longer useful to them, they may discard you without a second thought, moving on to someone else they can control. Their actions are driven by an inner emptiness, a hunger that is never satisfied. No amount of power or gain is enough for them. They are always seeking more. More control, more influence, more people to manipulate. And along the way, they leave a trail of broken trust, damaged lives, and people who are left wondering what went wrong. Manipulation and control by bad people can be hard to recognize at first because they wear masks. They know how to hide their true motives. But if you pay attention to the patterns, you can see the signs. They consistently make things about themselves. They use guilt and fear to influence your decisions. They make you feel responsible for their emotions and their life. And most of all, they take more than they ever give. Their goal is never mutual growth or love. It is about personal gain at your expense. The sooner you recognize this, the sooner you can break free from their grip. But it begins by understanding how they operate and refusing to let their manipulation take root in your life. They lack empathy, showing no genuine compassion or remorse for their actions. This absence of empathy is not always easy to spot in the beginning because such people can mimic concern or feign sympathy when it serves them. But over time, their true nature is revealed through patterns of behavior that expose a heart that is cold, self-centered, and detached from the feelings and needs of others. Where empathy would cause a person to pause, to consider the impact of their words and actions, these individuals press forward without hesitation. They are unmoved by the suffering they cause. They can hurt someone deeply and continue on as if nothing happened. Their concern is never about who they have wounded, but whether or not they themselves are inconvenienced or exposed. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, to feel what they feel, to care about how they are affected. It is the quality that makes kindness and understanding possible. But when a person lacks empathy, they see people as objects rather than human beings. They are not concerned with how their actions make others feel because those feelings are not real to them. They may understand intellectually that they have caused pain, but it doesn't reach their hearts. There is no genuine emotional connection, no sincere regret for the harm they cause. They may apologize, but it is often mechanical, done out of obligation or to manipulate a situation, not because they feel true sorrow. A person without empathy can watch others suffer and feel no impulse to comfort, to help, or to make amends. They may even exploit that suffering for their own advantage. If someone is vulnerable, they see opportunity. If someone is grieving, they may offer empty words to gain trust, only to use that trust for selfish purposes. They are unmoved by tears, unaffected by pleas for understanding. Where a compassionate person would soften, they remain hard and unmoved. One of the most troubling aspects of those who lack empathy is their inability to take responsibility for their actions. They will hurt others, but deny any wrongdoing. They may justify their behavior, blame the victim, or downplay the damage they've done. If someone confronts them, they may react with defensiveness, anger, or indifference. There is no remorse, only irritation that they have been challenged or exposed. Even when they are clearly at fault, they refuse to acknowledge it in any meaningful way. They do not seek forgiveness because they do not believe they need it. Their hearts are hardened, their conscience dulled. This lack of compassion can be especially painful for those who are close to them. Family members, friends, and partners often find themselves confused and heartbroken by the coldness they experience. They may spend years trying to earn the affection or understanding that never comes. They may explain, plead, and reason with someone who is emotionally unavailable, hoping to awaken some sense of care or concern. But people without empathy are not easily moved by the pain of others. They are often emotionally distant and incapable of forming deep, meaningful connections. Relationships with them can feel one-sided, exhausting, and deeply unfulfilling. Their lack of remorse also makes them dangerous in positions of power or influence. Without empathy, they can make decisions that harm many people without hesitation. They are not troubled by ethical considerations or the welfare of others. Their focus is on what benefits them, and they are willing to sacrifice anyone who gets in their way. Whether in personal relationships or professional environments, their inability to care about others leaves a trail of broken trust and emotional damage. At times, they may pretend to be compassionate. They may study the behaviors and language of empathetic people and imitate them when it suits their needs. They know what others expect to see and hear, and they can perform those actions convincingly. But their concern is superficial, lacking the depth and sincerity that real empathy brings. Over time, this facade begins to crack. Their reactions in moments of crisis or conflict reveal their true lack of feeling. They may become cold, dismissive, or even cruel when real compassion is most needed. When a person lacks empathy, they also struggle to understand why others are hurt by their actions. They may express confusion or irritation when someone confronts them with emotional pain. To them, emotions are weaknesses to be exploited or inconveniences to be ignored. They do not invest in understanding the emotional world of others because it does not matter to them. Their inability to feel deeply for another person means they cannot truly connect, comfort, or heal. This lack of empathy affects every area of their life. They often fail as friends because they cannot be counted on in times of need. They fail as partners because they cannot offer true intimacy or emotional support. They fail as leaders because they disregard the well-being of those they are supposed to guide. Wherever they go, they bring emotional emptiness. Their relationships are marked by distance, misunderstanding, and often harm. Ultimately, those who lack empathy leave people feeling unseen, unheard, and unvalued. Their actions can cause deep wounds because there is no recognition of the pain they cause. There is no reaching them with appeals to kindness or understanding because they do not possess these qualities in any real measure. They may wear the mask of concern, but underneath there is only self-interest and emotional coldness. And for those who cross their path, the absence of empathy becomes a source of sorrow, confusion, and often deep personal loss. Their pride blinds them, refusing correction or accountability. It is a pride that runs deep, rooted in an inflated sense of self-importance and superiority. People like this are convinced that they are always right, that their way is the best way, and that no one else's perspective matters. Pride becomes the lens through which they see everything. It distorts their vision, clouds their judgment, and ultimately isolates them from the truth. They do not want to be questioned, challenged, or corrected because in their minds they have risen above the need for counsel or humility. Their pride whispers that they are above reproach, and they believe it. When someone is blinded by pride, they reject any form of correction, no matter how gentle or well-intentioned. Even constructive criticism is met with resistance, denial, or anger. Rather than considering that they might be wrong, they become defensive and dismissive. They attack the one offering correction, shifting blame and accusing others of misunderstanding or overstepping. Their pride cannot tolerate the idea that they have made a mistake or that they have room to grow. To accept correction would mean admitting weakness, and their pride will not allow that. Refusing accountability is a natural consequence of such pride. They do not want to answer for their actions because they do not believe they should have to. Accountability requires humility. It asks a person to acknowledge their faults, take responsibility, and make amends. But a prideful heart resists this at every turn. Instead of owning up to their behavior, they offer excuses. They blame circumstances, other people, or even the person they have wronged. Their pride creates a narrative where they are always the victim or the hero, never the one at fault. They are experts at justifying their actions, twisting facts to suit their version of events. This refusal to be accountable damages their relationships deeply. People who interact with them often feel unheard, dismissed, and invalidated. It becomes impossible to resolve conflict because the prideful person will not admit wrongdoing or seek reconciliation. Even when their actions have clearly caused harm, they remain unmoved. Their focus is on protecting their image rather than repairing the relationship. Over time, this creates a wall between them and others, a wall built brick by brick with stubbornness, arrogance, and denial. Prideful people often surround themselves with those who will not challenge them. They prefer to be around individuals who will agree with them, flatter them, and support their distorted view of themselves. They reject wise counsel and isolate themselves from truth-tellers. Anyone who dares to hold up a mirror and reveal their flaws is seen as a threat. Their pride demands constant affirmation, and they seek out those who will feed their ego rather than those who will sharpen their character. This echo chamber reinforces their blindness, preventing them from seeing the damage they cause and the reality of their situation. Even when faced with clear evidence of their mistakes, they will find a way to deny it. Pride has convinced them that they are the exception to the rule. They believe they are uniquely qualified, unusually wise, or especially righteous. This sense of superiority makes it nearly impossible for them to acknowledge their shortcomings. They may even mock or belittle those who try to correct them, using sarcasm, condescension, or outright hostility to silence opposing voices. The consequences of such pride are severe. Without correction or accountability, they continue down a path of self-deception and destruction. They make decisions based on arrogance rather than wisdom, often leading to failure or disaster. Yet even in failure, they may refuse to see their role in what went wrong. They will blame others, circumstances, or bad luck, anything but themselves. Their pride will not allow them to look inward and learn from their mistakes. This blindness also prevents them from growing. Correction and accountability are essential for personal development. They are opportunities to learn, to become wiser, to build stronger relationships, and to walk in greater integrity. But the prideful person shuts the door on these opportunities. They remain stuck, repeating the same patterns and making the same errors. Their pride locks them in a cycle where they cannot move forward because they refuse to acknowledge where they are wrong. In many cases, their pride also leads to loneliness. Over time, people grow weary of trying to connect with someone who refuses to listen, refuses to change, and refuses to take responsibility. Trust erodes and relationships suffer. What was once closeness turns into distance. People stop offering advice because they know it will be ignored or rejected. Eventually, the prideful person may find themselves alone, surrounded only by those who are too afraid or too indifferent to speak truth into their life. Their pride may also lead to greater consequences in their personal and professional life. Leaders who refuse correction make poor decisions that can harm organizations, communities, and families. Parents who refuse accountability damage their relationships with their children. Friends who cannot admit when they are wrong destroy trust. Pride doesn't stay hidden. It reveals itself in every area of life, leaving a trail of brokenness wherever it goes. There is a deep irony in pride. The very thing that makes them feel strong and superior is what makes them weak and blind. It cuts them off from wisdom, truth, and meaningful connection. It keeps them from the healing and restoration that accountability and correction could bring, but they cannot see it. Their pride has made them blind. They refuse to admit fault, refuse to seek forgiveness, and refuse to change because they have convinced themselves that they do not need to. And so they remain trapped in a prison of their own making, chained by their arrogance and unwillingness to humble themselves. They sow division, spreading lies and stirring conflict wherever they go. It is not always obvious at first, but in time the pattern becomes clear. Wherever they step, relationships are broken, trust is shattered, and peace turns to strife. People who sow division do not care about unity or reconciliation. They are not interested in harmony or mutual understanding. Instead, they thrive in environments where there is chaos and confusion because it gives them power and control. Division is their weapon of choice, and they wield it with calculated precision, often hiding behind a mask of concern or innocence. Spreading lies is one of their most effective tools. They twist the truth, exaggerate small matters, and invent stories designed to pit people against one another. They may present themselves as the bearer of secret knowledge, whispering rumors in private conversations, carefully planting seeds of doubt. What they say often seems believable at first because they mix just enough truth with their lies to make them convincing. They might claim they are only trying to help or warn others, but their real motive is to stir suspicion and mistrust. Once the lie is planted, they step back and watch it grow, knowing it will take root in the minds of those who are too willing to listen. These people understand human nature. They know that people are drawn to gossip, that many find it hard to resist listening to a juicy story about someone else. They exploit this weakness, feeding rumors into conversations, knowing that word will spread and grow more poisonous along the way. They count on others to carry the falsehoods further, creating a ripple effect of confusion and resentment. Soon, people are questioning one another's intentions, friendships are strained, and unity is destroyed. The one who sowed the initial lie stands back and pretends to be uninvolved, acting surprised when division takes hold. Stirring conflict often follows their lies. They provoke arguments and disputes, sometimes openly, but often in subtle, manipulative ways. They may play both sides of a disagreement, telling one person one thing and another something entirely different. They stir emotions, exaggerate offenses, and encourage misunderstanding. They thrive on watching people turn against each other. While others are caught in the storm of conflict, they quietly maneuver themselves into positions of influence, gaining power while everyone else is distracted by strife. One of their tactics is to exploit existing tensions. Every group or community has differences. Different opinions, different experiences, different personalities. A person who sows division will find these cracks and drive a wedge deeper between people. They highlight every slight, whether real or imagined. They fan the flames of old grievances and encourage people to nurse their wounds rather than forgive. They may present themselves as the champion of one group, pretending to stand for justice or truth, while secretly undermining the very unity they claim to support. They are skilled at presenting their actions as justified. They may frame their lies as truth-telling or their divisive actions as standing up for what is right. They often claim they are only exposing wrongdoing or bringing hidden things to light, but their motives are selfish. They are not working toward reconciliation, they are working toward destruction. They stir up conflict, not to heal, but to harm. They do not seek peace, but power. The turmoil they create serves their purposes, giving them more control over people who are too divided and distracted to see what is really happening. People who sow division often have a deep need to be the center of attention. They want others to look to them for information, guidance, or leadership. By creating conflict, they make themselves indispensable. They position themselves as the only one who knows the full story, the only one who can be trusted. They use fear and suspicion to isolate people from one another, cutting off healthy communication and prevent. They may even convince others that they are the victim, using manipulation to garner sympathy while continuing to sow discord behind the scenes. The damage they cause can be long-lasting. Lies, once spread, are difficult to uproot. Mistrust takes time to heal. Friendships, families, and communities can be torn apart by their actions. Even when the truth eventually comes out, the wounds they leave behind remain. People may find it hard to trust again after being betrayed by lies and manipulation. The unity that once held people together is replaced by lingering suspicion and fear. What makes their actions even more dangerous is the fact that they often do not see themselves as the problem. In their minds, they are justified. Their pride and self-righteousness blind them to the harm they cause. They see themselves as truth-tellers, as defenders of what is right, even as they spread falsehoods and foster division. They are quick to point out the faults of others, but refuse to look at their own. They stir conflict and then stand back, pretending innocence, while others suffer the consequences. Their presence in any group brings tension and instability. What once was a place of trust becomes a battleground. People walk on eggshells, unsure of who they can believe or confide in. Rumors replace truth, and assumptions take the place of honest communication. The person who sows division thrives in this environment, always ready to exploit the confusion for their gain. And yet, it often begins so quietly. A whispered comment, a subtle suggestion, a question that plants doubt. It does not take much to start the process, but once it begins, the effects can be devastating. Division spreads like wildfire, consuming relationships, families, churches, workplaces, and communities. It leaves behind ashes where there once was harmony. And the one who started it often walks away, searching for the next place to sow their lies and stir their conflict all over again. Conclusion, my friends, we must be watchful. The world is not always as it seems. We must look beyond charming words and smiling faces. We must examine the fruit of a person's life. Good trees bear good fruit, but bad trees, no matter how tall, no matter how beautiful, bear bad fruit. Do not be deceived. Protect your heart, choose your companions wisely, and above all, walk in truth, in light, and in love. For where light shines, darkness must flee.